everyone. Welcome to Digging In. We have the privilege today to have Nate Allen with us, who has served for 37 years in the public, in the police task force area. And he is with us today because we are going to be talking about inspiring others. We've been looking at grit over the past several weeks and walking through each piece of grit. And today we're on inspiring. And no, there's no one better than Nate Allen to talk to us about being an inspiration and how you do that and what that looks like. So Nate, thank you for being with us today.
You are welcome. You are welcome.
So Nate, 37 years.
Yes, ma'am.
It's a lot of service. Mm-hmm. It's a lot of time. We appreciate your service to us.
Thank you. Thank you.
So you have been an inspiration in the public arena and in serving. And so today, we really want to pick your brain and we want to find out, pieces of inspiring. And part of that is being that servant leader. Correct. So will you just talk to us? Tell us about what is a servant leader? How are you a servant leader? What does it look like, Nate?
To me, a servant leader is someone who takes leadership from the heart. Mm-hmm. You must go into leadership knowing that you are going to be there to serve. Mm. And if you don't, you're going to get a wide awakening later on in life. You will, especially in the public arena. Mm. It's much different, I've learned, from the private sector. Mm. So being a servant leader is something that you have to have from the heart, knowing that going into it from the beginning.
Mm. So Nate, I love that piece that you talk about, heart, from a purpose standpoint. And obviously, you are a man that leads as a servant leader. I'm curious, when 37 years in the police force, when did you find that your heart was for servant leadership? When did that come about?
Looking back on it now, I can say it started probably back in high school. Mm. I always was serving in high school. Mm. I loved to do the media part. I would set up the audio video equipment and take it from room to room and do things to always help others. At that time, I may have just looked at it as an escape to get out of doing classwork. but upon looking at it now, it was a part of serving. Mm. And so once I graduated high school and went on to college, I continued that same type of style, especially serving in the area of audio and video. Mm. So that's I guess that kind of kicked off my trend of actually being a servant leader.
Mm. So servant leader, from your perspective, they have a purpose. They know it's more than just a role or just a position. Mm-hmm. Talk to me for a minute about your career. How did you find yourself growing and being able to serve even more people? As you grew in your role, how did you serve more people?
Being a police officer as a whole, I think, is a calling. Mm. It is oftentimes not a very thankful job. Mm. You don't get a lot of recognition. We all know it's not a high-paying job. So you have to be in there because of the calling that you have to serve and help others. And that's really big to me. Everyone can't be a police officer. Everyone shouldn't be a police officer. But once you want to become a police officer and you have that desire to be a police officer, I think you need to really search deep in your heart and soul and make sure that you want to help others, because you are going to be helping others during very tragic and difficult times in their lives. Mm-hmm.
Did you find throughout your career that you were demonstrating and teaching servant leadership? So was it just how you led, but did you find yourself leading, teaching others to
use that? But that's as you promote up the rank, you will find yourself leading others and being a servant leader. I often tell my crew is that I am there to provide resources for them to get their job done. When they need something, they are to ask, and I am to try to provide that type of resource for them. And I oftentimes say, and I still say, that I didn't have 200 people working for me. I had 200 people I worked for because I went to work when they asked for something, when they needed something. That's when I went to work. Not only the 200 employees that I had working that I worked for, I also worked for the other 60,000 residents in the city of Decatur. So leadership is something, but servant leadership is even bigger because you have to know that you're there to serve those folks. And I serve them 24/7. If you want a witness to that, just call my wife and ask her. She'll tell you. Yes, yes. The phone rung all the time, and my phone stayed on all the time, and I always answered because what may have I considered small, the person who was asking me considered it to be huge. So you had to be there to serve.
And so you served so many people, and they were under your leadership, and saw how you were serving them. And I know that replicated their servant leadership as well. You have been well known, very well known in this area for your leadership and the things that you have done in the community to grow our police force and to help them be purposeful in their work that they do. So we know that about you. So talk to us about, how do you inspire? Inspiration can sound kind of short-lived. It can sound a little surface sometimes. So how do you truly inspire?
It's been my experience that I inspire others by first listening, just sitting down and listening. Someone comes into your office, especially as a senior manager, as an executive, someone comes into your office with a problem, question, or concern. It's been my experience to just stop, take the time to listen. And you would be really surprised to learn in the end that they will come back and say, thank you for just listening. Oftentimes, they may not even want you to intervene in any kind of way, but they need someone to listen to and maybe to bounce an idea off of you. Not necessarily make the decision, just bounce their idea off of somebody. And when you take the time to listen, I think you really realize then the importance it is of just stopping and listening.
Being that sounding board for someone else is quite a compliment. They have to trust you.
They do. They do.
Obviously, you have been well trusted.
They do.
For people to feel that.
I've had people to come and tell me their intimate personal, I'm not going to say secrets, but things that's going on in their lives. And that made me feel very, very good to know that they trusted me enough to share that life event with me. And most times they didn't need me to tell them what to do. They just needed that sounding board. And that's when I was there for them.
What a valuable skill you have. Very valuable skill. So you need to serve. You spoke to servant leadership and how that's important in being able to inspire others. And you need to be able to listen and be able to let people have a voice, let them talk, let them process things out loud.
Correct.
So talk to us about another piece in the G.R.I.T section is being able to be grateful, to have gratitude. Obviously, we're here at Thanksgiving time, and that's important as we look at Thanksgiving. But talk to me about gratitude. What do you see that as, and how do you live with gratitude?
Oh, I talk to my kids about having gratitude all the time. To me, it's simply saying thank you. Thank you, please, and may I. Those three things there, if you can just remember to say those things, I think it'll go a very, very long ways, especially in your leadership. Say thank you. No matter how big or small you think the task at hand was, say thank you. And when you walk in and give somebody some instructions, say please. Say please. Will you handle this for me, please? Sure. Will you do this, please? Sure. A lot of folks forget to say please. And then, the last thing is may I. Walk into someone's office, say, may I sit down? May I have your attention just for a moment, please? Right there, it gets their attention. Oh, this is boss. He's coming there. It must be something wrong. So those three things, I think, is huge. Just saying thank you, may I, and please.
Those pieces, I think, have gotten lost in the last several years in our society, of really being able to slow down, to acknowledge someone else and acknowledge what they're doing,
Yes.
and to be able to speak those types of words to others. So it's neat to hear that. That has been in your vocabulary, and it remains in your vocabulary.
It sure does.
I'm curious, you talked about your children. So you have teenagers.
Oh, yes.
And daughters.
Two 16-year-olds.
Two 16-year-olds. So give us a little parental insight. How are you teaching them? How have you taught them over the years about gratitude?
The same thing. Thank you. May I, and please. My daughter today sent me a text, and I've been working very hard with her to say, well, one of my daughters, to say, may I instead of I need. And she sent me a text this morning and said, may I go to church tonight? And the first response I had back to her was, I really appreciate you saying may I, instead of saying I want to go to church tonight. So it's huge. Yeah, but I think I'm breaking down the barrier now. But you're correct when it comes to, we've lost those things, I think, in today's time. And that's something I feel we need to get back. So I just really would like to say about my family is that's the thing that I'm teaching them is please, may I, and thank you.
To have a dad that would take the time and slow down and teach kind of a mind shift. We all need that mind shift from time to time. We need that accountability. The fact that you care enough to hold them accountable says remarkable things about who you are as a dad and as a leader. And so it's you in this gratitude piece, I love how it's a part of your life. It's a part of who you are. Is there any just wisdom as you think about offering leaders, people that would be listening in all walks of life, they're doing different things. Let's say, it's Thanksgiving, so even in this season, how would you encourage them in gratitude? What would you encourage them to do as a leader to demonstrate gratitude to their team during this Thanksgiving season?
To slow down and speak to each individual on a personal level. Also during this time, I would encourage leaders to understand and know their employees on a personal level. So when you see someone, you can ask them not only how are your family doing, but how are your two twin daughters doing? And that makes a big difference. You can say, I understand you purchased a new home, or you purchased a new car, or your granny is sick. How is she doing? When you start asking them personal questions about their life, to me, that shows that you are interested in them. Now, granted, I understand there are some leaders whom, like I, had over 200 employees. You may not know every one of their personal situations, but the employees that are right around you, you should know their personal situations and have a personal interest in helping them to get better.
So you just said you should know their personal interest.
Correct.
That's a powerful word. Powerful word. So what's the takeaway? How can you challenge us all as we finish up today?
The challenge that I would have is that I would challenge you all to use thank you, may I, and please more, and build that bridge and that gap between you and whomever you're speaking with. I was always taught very, very early on in my police profession, if you start the conversation off with may I, please, ma'am or sir, and if it goes downhill from there, it's not your fault. But you always begin the conversation with ma'am, sir, please, may I, may you, may we, how can I help?
Such wisdom from Nate Allen. So let's take that challenge. Let's be mindful in the next few weeks. How can we say thank you? How can we go the extra mile and say please? How can we be mindful of the people that are around us and slow down to know what they're going through, what's going on in their world? How can we have a listening ear? So many pieces of insight, and you've challenged us today. So thank you for listening to Digging In. We hope you have a wonderful Thanksgiving, and we hope that you're able to spend time with your family as you dig in and support them.
To learn more about the concepts from this video, you can find Dr. Larry Little's book, Crossing the Line, available to purchase on Amazon and our website, eaglecenterforleadership.com. You can also find the podcast, Crossing the Line with Larry Little, available on Apple Podcast, Spotify, or online at eaglecenterforleadership.com. Thank you for watching.